Hi there, it's Nicole here today with a Mix It Up challenge with the Essentials by Ellen stamps and dies paired with Honeybee stamps and dies. I am using the Essentials by Ellen Mermaid's Tail stamps and die set with the Sending Sunshine United We Flourish stamp and die set exclusive to Ellen Hudson, as well as several other honeybee dies to create this fun scene. We're going to start with the Sunburst A2 cover die cut from some white cardstock. And even though I'm die cutting it from white cardstock and die cutting all these pieces, I actually want to use them all together. It's more the look and appearance of the sun rays than actual die cutting, if that makes sense. So I'm using a little post-it tape to temporarily adhere all of these little pieces back together so that I can customize and ink this with some distress inks. Starting with squeezed lemonade ink, I am going to lay down this color kind of all over the upper portion of my card. And I'm going to leave some of the area uncovered near the bottom simply because it's going to be covered up anyway, so I don't have to worry about adding color. To give the sun a little more depth and dimension, I'll use a little spiced marmalade ink. And the combination of orange and yellow together really gives an awesome sun ray effect. I'm going to go ahead and go back with squeezed lemonade then and add color. Make sure and get it blended really nice. That one little piece didn't have very much post-it tape behind it and is not wanting to stay put there. Once I have that blended out, I will spritz this with a little water from a distress sprayer. This is going to give me some nice water droplets all over. I also have a couple borders there that were die cut with the cloudy or the cloud borders dies, but instead of clouds I flipped them over so that they're waves. And I felt like I needed a little more color here all the way around the sunshine, so I'm going back in, blend that a little bit more, darken it up everywhere. Once my background is all spritzed, I've blotted it dry. Those cloud borders were inked with Salty Ocean and Twisted Citron. I apologize that that did not get in the video. I think my video camera shut off and I didn't realize it, so I'm really sorry about that. But same thing as the background, I simply die cut those from smooth white cardstock and inked them with the two colors, spritzed them with water from a distress sprayer and blotted those dry. I'm going to take my dry background now and using greetings from the Sending Sunshine stamp set and some black dye ink, I'm going to stamp my greeting, the top part of my greeting anyway, right there on the sunshine, which reads "A Day Without." And then for the rest of the greeting on the front of the card, I am die cutting the words sunshine from a layer of cardstock attached to fun foam with stick-it adhesive. This is one of my favorite ways to create a dimensional greeting. It is going to be inked with the same colors as the sunshine background, so spiced marmalade and squeezed lemonade. What's fantastic about this, it becomes part of the design, but it also has some dimension, so it's still very easy to read. The top portion of the greetings are all inked with spiced marmalade and the bottom with the squeezed lemonade. And the little dot for the eye is so teeny tiny. I'm using some tweezers to hold on to it and to ink it. But this is just a fantastic way to have a greeting that's a combination of both stamped sentiments and a die cut dimensional sentiment. Once this is inked the way I want it to look, I can take that and attach it to my card base. So I'm going to carefully peel it off of my work surface. I'm using a craft mat here so that it peeled up easily. And I'm popping out any of the insides of those little letters that maybe didn't come right out using a piercing tool. And then I want to arrange my sentiment so that it doesn't, so that you still can read the stamped sentiment, I guess, if that makes sense. So I'm going to line up these two portions of the greeting. I see I missed a little area there. And then for the little dot on the eye, because even though there is adhesive on the back of that fun foam, the stick-it adhesive, it's so teeny tiny, I think a lot of that really kind of gets lost. I put a little dab of glossy accents right there, and using my tweezers, I'll position that on my card. That gives me much more control, even though it was a little bit tricky to get that. But that way I don't have to worry about that falling off anywhere. I went ahead and removed then the Post-it tape from the back of my card. And this is one of my favorite tricks for doing an inlay background like this of any kind. If you want this whole layer to be dimensional, covering the back with foam adhesive, this is the Scotch foam adhesive. It's pretty low profile, but it'll still give dimension. This not only will have adhesive on it to attach it to your card base, but it's two-sided, so the adhesive on the front is going to provide a perfect adhesive to attach your inlay layers. I'm completely covering this back panel. When I attach a panel like this to a card base, I really like for the whole thing to have adhesive so there aren't any dips or anywhere that might get pressed down and ruin kind of the whole look of the card. You do kind of want to make sure that adhesive on the outer edge goes all the way out. I ended up moving it a little bit because you can see that tiny little thin edge is hanging a little funny, so I will fix that. But I'm inlaying all of the sun ray pieces right here into the background. That foam adhesive makes it really easy to attach everything. Replace, it's kind of like building a puzzle. You just replace all of the little pieces. It's really the fastest way I've found to do an inlay like this. And here's my last little piece. And that's where I kind of discovered that that edge is hanging funny and it really bothered me. I pulled that adhesive off just a little bit and fixed it. I'm going to go ahead and take some adhesive now and attach my waves to the bottom of this scene, building a little ocean scene here. The waves are a little bit longer than this panel. A lot of times I like to do my borders a little bit longer. That way I have a little play. So if I want to move them around a little bit, I can always trim off that excess off of one side. Want to make sure and get that trimmed exactly right. Two borders along the bottom provide a fantastic place to tuck the whale tail. If I'm doing something like water or clouds or even grass, I like to tuck the element in between the two layers. I think it gives it a little bit more of a realistic feel. It is a mermaid, so it's not that realistic, but I want it to, let's say it's a fish. I want it to appear that it's in between so that it's in the middle of the water, not back behind the water before you get to the sun. I don't know if that makes sense. But for me, visually, I think it looks a lot nicer tucked in between the two wave layers. Before I get to that mermaid tail, I want to stamp the inside of my card base, and I've trimmed down a piece of white cardstock here, and so I have a top fold card base. So 4¼ inches by 11 inches and then scored in the middle. And to finish my greeting, I'm stamping another sentiment from the Sending Sunshine And then I'm going to finish with a sentiment from the Mermaid's Tale. So my greeting actually reads from the front to the inside, "A day without sunshine is like, you know, night. Just keep swimming." And I think that's so cute and clever and fun, but yet it's still a fantastic encouragement style card. On a piece of Bristol Smooth cardstock now, this is a little scrap I had lying around, I'm going to take my mermaid tail and stamp that right there on the cardstock using VersaMark ink and heat emboss this with some white embossing powder. I love the new Lawn Fawn white embossing powder. It's a beautiful, crisp, pure white. And I want to make sure that this whole thing gets embossed really well, but don't scorch the paper, so keep moving that heat tool. I like to go from the front and the back, heat that paper up really well. It helps it to keep it from warping quite so much, as well as melts that embossing powder nice and evenly. And then I want to die cut the mermaid tail before I add color. I originally was going to start adding color, and I realized it'd be a lot easier to die cut the mermaid tail first. So I'm using that coordinating mermaid's tail die. And I want to create a rainbow design. I have my regular ink blending tool from Ranger out, and then I have some Dauber Duos. The ink blending tool is really going to be too big for this particular technique because I want to only color in small little areas. When I'm distress inking small areas, I love Dauber Duos for this. They really provide a great way to apply the ink in smaller areas. And I'm doing a rainbow effect with picked raspberry, candied apple, spiced marmalade, squeezed lemonade, twisted citron, salty ocean, and wilted violet. And I'm going to repeat this a couple times all throughout my mermaid tail to give that rainbow appearance. With the sunshine background and the waves along the border, I wanted that mermaid's tail to really take the focal point in that awesome rainbow design. Keep laying all this ink down. I have labeled my Dauber Duos and I keep them in a little case so that I can use those over and over just like I do my regular ink blending tools. That way I get lots of use out of them and I can just grab them when I need them for another project. I'll take a dry paper towel now and buff any ink that's sitting on top of the mermaid tail off of the embossed areas, and then place some nice strong adhesive on my mermaid tail and tuck it between those two waves on my scene. So I want it to kind of be tucked just a little bit under that dimensional greeting. There are some awesome little bubbles also from the Mermaid's Tail die collection that I'm going to die cut from some white cardstock. Again, using my Post-it tape to hold those in place while I add a little ink with Salty Ocean Distress ink to these. I'm going to add these bubbles to the bottom area of my card, almost that it looks like the rest of the mermaid is down underneath the water and these bubbles are coming up. So I'm trying to figure out the best way to put, or best place to put these rather, and I really think along the bottom is best. Once I have these attached to my card, I'm going to take a little glossy accents and go over the bubbles. I'm going to attach them with glossy accents as well. I'm using a jewel picker to pick up these teeny tiny die cut pieces. Keep my fingers out of the adhesive this way. And I love how glossy accents looks on things like bubbles. It provides a fantastic little dimensional embellishment to any design. Finally, I'm going to finish my card with a scattering of Honeybee Stamps sequins. This is the Sunny Day mix which is perfect for this sunshine theme card. I'm layering several of these sequins. So there's some little jewels that look fantastic in the middle of some of these, and I'm just scattering them throughout the design. Again, using the jewel picker to pick them up and using glossy accents to attach them so that they don't go anywhere. Once I'm finished adding all of the sequins to the card, and I kind of want to do them all over the top portion of the card, but not overload it. So there's a few scattered here and there. I'm going to peel off the backing paper from the back of this, from the foam adhesive, and attach it to my white top fold card base that we stamped a greeting on the inside. Peel off all of these strips. And that is going to finish up this Mix It Up Challenge card featuring the Essentials by Ellen Mermaid's Tail stamps and dies and the Honeybee stamps Sending Sunshine United We Flourish stamp and die set, as well as other Honeybee stamps dies. So there's the front and there is the inside. Thanks for joining me today for this Mix It Up Challenge card. The supplies I used are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.